Hello, and welcome to Painting with Traci. My name is Traci, and I'm going to be the one walking you through this today. So we have some super exciting things going on in the studio today. I'd like to introduce Noah. He's going to be helping us out today. Thank you for coming, Noah.
Yep.
Right, hooray. So today we're going to be doing some acrylic pours. It's super popular right now. There's a lot of people doing it. I know that I really struggled with it at first, trying to figure out what the exact ratios were, what I would need to mix my paint at. So that's a couple of things that we're going to go through today. And once we get through the mixing of the paint, which is kind of the boring part, then we'll get into the fun stuff, and I'll show you a couple of different techniques. So let's go ahead and get started. So Noah, if you would like to pick out 3 colors other than white or black.
Blue.
Okay, so we have a phthalo blue.
Purple.
Okay, let's go with prism violet.
Orange.
Ooh, good color combos. All right. And just straight orange. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and take a cup for the first one, and then we'll also need a bottle. Excellent. So what I have found, and then while I'm doing this, if you wouldn't mind shaking up that bottle of thinner, that Floetrol, and then we'll pour a cup full of it into one of these guys right here. Yeah, good call. Yeah, really shake it. Get aggressive with it. Ooh, pardon me. There we go. Here, I can get that for you, sir. Childproof. Yeah, it's childproof, cats. I'm going to trade you. I'll give you that. And the reason that I'm pouring the Floetrol into the cup is just because it makes it a lot easier to work with than this giant jug. Now, what I am using here... Oh, I didn't get a very good mix on that one, didn't I? That's okay. We have, because stuff like this happens a lot when you're pouring. Oh, goodness, that's a good one. Just let that go right back in there. And I'll take a popsicle stick and pull out the big chunk that we got in that one and put it directly into our trash can. It's always a good idea when you're doing pours to have garbage cans available. Slide that back in front of you, Noah. Thank you, dear. And I'll strain that out as soon as we get home. You could set that back over there for me, sir. And our paper towels. It's also a good idea when you're setting up for your pours that you have an entire roll of paper towels available to you. This will get messy. Part of the fun of it. Those are for you. And I'll have a couple for me to have on hand. And now we'll get into the fun of it. So, I've got about that much paint in the bottom of my cup. Maybe a 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom. And now I'm going to add my Floetrol. So for Floetrol, you're going to do, with non-metallic paints, I find that the best ratio is going to be a 50-50 mix. So you're going to put about as much Floetrol, maybe we should move this right here so everybody can see it. About as much Floetrol in your paint, in your cup, as you have paint. I like to use popsicle sticks to mix it up with, simply because they're inexpensive, you can rinse them off really well. So as you're mixing your paint, can you see that okay now? As you're mixing your paint, the Floetrol looks white, but it actually ends up being clear. It doesn't dilute your color at all. And you're gonna add Floetrol and mix and mix and mix and mix. And oh yeah, and mix some more. Until you have kind of a thick consistency. It's kind of sticky looking, about like so. And then we're gonna add some water to it. So if you could hand me that measuring cup full of water we got right there. Perfect. So when you're doing your water, you wanna go really slow with it. You definitely can add too much water very easily. So we're gonna add only about that much, just a little splash. And we might need more, so we'll hang on to that there. And then you mix, and you mix, and you mix, and you mix. And when you're done with it, you want it about the consistency of cream. So we're still really thick. We're gonna add a little bit more water. I kind of go by feel almost anymore. I've mixed up enough of it that you can feel when it's about right. Now, I want to point out real quick while we're mixing this that when you first add your water and you start stirring it in, it's gonna seem like it's really thin. The more you mix it, it'll thicken up. Keep mixing until once you think you're done mixing, mix it just a little bit more. So, it's still kind of thick. Now, for the next colors, we're gonna mix it in the bottle, which goes a lot faster, but I really wanted to take the time to show everybody what this looks like in the cup. Now, we could have gotten this one too. No, I think we're good actually. So, yeah, that's about, not quite as thin as some whole milk, but that's about the consistency we're gonna want it. So we'll go ahead and set that aside for just a moment. And then I'll show you how to mix it in the bottle. So I like to take my squeezy tops off, just because I feel like it goes into the bottle a lot better, especially when it's one about this size. With the bottle, the other great thing about using bottles versus cups is you can store your paint. So we're just gonna go ahead and mix up a full bottle of this, since I've got my friend Noah here with his much younger and stronger arms than mine. Now you can also use, see what I mean about it getting messy? You can also use an electric mixer to do your paint with. You just have to keep in mind that with the electric mixer, a lot of times it puts air bubbles into your paint. And when you go to torch it, you'll have all these little white air bubbles that have popped. And so it kind of looks a little pocky rather than having the cells that you were hoping to get out of it. So while I do the blue, do you want to do the purple? Okay. And I'd say go ahead and put almost a third of the bottle. Fill about a third's worth. You can also wear gloves when you're doing this. That helps quite a bit. Some latex gloves. I commandeered a box of my husband's mechanic gloves. And they worked really, really well. For me personally, I'd like to have my hands in the paint. It's kind of like gardening. I have a hard time gardening with gloves on. But you can always tell when I've been painting. Is it going in there for you nice and? Oh, is it? Okay. Well, then we'll just work with what we got. You can use it you can squeeze the tube usually like a toothpaste tube. That's always fun. Get in there. All right, I'm gonna call that good just for the sake of. Put that one over there. And again, you're gonna use, like I said, about as much Floetrol as you do paint. So I'd say go ahead and grab our cup of Floetrol, and I would fill it to where it just covers the paint in that bottle. Maybe a little bit more. Just a little bit. That's probably good. Then you're gonna go ahead and put the lid on it and shake the crap out of it. Do the same thing with this guy. Now, the nice thing about these bottles is the bigger ones are marked on the side like your hair dye bottle would be. And you can kind of go off of the numbers there. It's the only reason that I use this ratio is because it's the one that I've found that works the best for me. Could I have a lid, please, sir? Awesome. Thanks, Noah. It's just the ratio that works best for me. Everybody has kind of a preference, and once you get into doing it, you'll find that there's different colored paints and different pigments require. So the metallics, for example, require a lot more Floetrol to thin them down and a lot more water than your standard primary colors do. Yeah. And then once you feel like you've got it mixed up fairly well, then we'll start adding some water, and it makes it a little bit easier to mix. Get down on it. Get down on it. We never had TV growing up, really. We just got the channels that came in on the antenna ears, but there was always a radio in the background, so I get all sorts of funny songs stuck in my head all the time. All right. Okay, and then with yours, we have about here. There you go. And this goes, I like using the bottles. It mixes up a lot faster. And you can store your leftover paint. And then when we actually get into doing the pours, it's a lot easier to get it exactly where you want it versus just kind of hoping it goes where it should. Oh, you can shake it harder than that, darling. So is school out yet, Noah?
Yes.
It is. Excellent. You got any big plans for this summer?
No.
What? So I will give you this one and let you mix that guy, and I'll check this one out. So I've watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to do this. And I recognize that this is probably the most boring part of the whole thing, and I apologize. But that being said, because it's the most boring, a lot of people cut it out of their videos. And that's where, myself included, a lot of people struggle with trying to get the ratios right and knowing exactly how much they're using. Beautiful. All right, so then the last colors, we're gonna need our black and white. So we'll need 2 cups, some black paint and some white paint, and we'll race. That'll do it. And the black paint, we're using that Flow Acrylic, that large bottle of paint in the back corner there. Beautiful. So you can pick this up at Michael's, that's where I got it. It's fairly inexpensive as far as paints go. It's their Flow Acrylic or their classroom acrylics. You don't have to, it's a little bit thinner than the paints that you would get in a tube, and you don't have to add as much water or Floetrol to dilute it down. So you should be good to go to start adding. I would do, like I said, the same as last time, about as much Floetrol. I'm so excited about doing this. I've wanted to do one of these for quite some time. You know, and if this is something that piques your interest, you can go on. Excuse me. I'm just kidding. You can go on YouTube. Pinterest has an abundance of places or ideas and suggestions for ways you can do your paint. I recently started actually trying to make shapes out of the pours, and I managed to do a set of dragons that turned out really well. Are we out of paint? Oh, okay. So we can't remember that glob's in there, so you might want to grab a stick. Yeah. Just as you know, go ahead and hold it as you pour, and then it'll catch on your stick. Yeah. Maybe a little more, because I'm going to need some for the white also. That's probably good. Excellent. And then you need more for in here. There you are. There you are, sir. I'll take some of this. Okay. Set that right over there and out of our way. And I like to, I'll reuse my sticks a lot of times depending on what color I'm doing. You know, because if it's a lighter color, then you can go into a darker color. Like, you could probably go into the black and it wouldn't change the color. Unless, of course, it's white, and then you've got gray. And you want to make sure you're scraping the sides really good and the bottom corners also. I'm going to reach right in front of you, sir, and grab that water. you can, I'm told that you can use different mediums for thinning and extending your paint. I have a girlfriend who uses coconut water or coconut milk, and she says that not only does it smell wonderful while you're doing it, although I've wondered about what it smells like as it's drying. She says it works better and it's less expensive than the Floetrol. Liquitex makes a pouring medium that you can get in the craft stores. Compare prices would be my suggestion as far as that's concerned. Just make sure you're comparing your prices all the way around, because it can become an expensive habit. Not quite thin enough on that one. Go right ahead, sir. Are you just now putting water in?
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit more than that. There you go. The only time it's really a problem that you put in too much water is when you use the last of your paint to make your batch of color, and then you put in too much water and you have to, it's way too thin. Because you can always add more paint to it, that's no problem. Alright. I think we're good on that one. How's your black looking? That looks pretty darn good. Okay, so I think we're ready to actually start getting into the fun stuff. So we'll set that aside. I like to, thank you, sir. I'll let you set that up there for us. I like to pour into a tub. There's a lot of different ways you can do your pours. I have a girlfriend who has her whole back porch plastic. Like, she just went and she goes and gets great big plastic bags and cuts them apart and lays it out everywhere. And what she does is she takes, pardon me, sir. She takes these here push pins and you just stick them into the bottom of your canvas, into the corners here. Oh my goodness. There we go. And it just kind of has to be stuck in there, but you want it to be like an even amount. You don't want it one sticking up more than the other, because it'll make your canvas sit off even or uneven. And then you'll walk away with it thinking that it's done and you like the way it's all set up, and you'll come back and the whole thing will have shifted to the low side of the canvas. But that's all she does, and then she sets it directly onto her table with all of her plastic, just like so, and then pours like that, and it's elevated up off the table so that the paint can roll underneath of the canvas without actually sticking to the table. I like to pour directly into my bucket. It keeps my paint all contained in one spot. You can just let it dry and you can peel the paint out of your bucket later, and it makes awesome little window clings, or it's a lot of fun. There's all sorts of neat stuff you can do with all the waste, because I don't really think that you waste much of it if you don't want to. All right, sir, if you want to hand me an empty cup, we'll get into the fun stuff. So we're gonna do a flip cup today. So it's always a good idea to start with white or black, because they're so heavily pigmented. And so we'll put those directly into the bottom of our cup. Let's go like this. I'm gonna put the white in, and then I'm gonna let you take over with layering the rest of the colors. So I've got about a 1/4 of an inch worth of paint in the bottom of my cup here. And if you would hand me that oil in the bottle right there. Yes. So there's a couple of different ways to get cells in your pour. At home, I have a belt lubricant. It's a treadmill belt lubricant that I like to use, and it's a silicone. I've used 4-in-1 oil, and it works okay. This stuff right here, the dimethicone, works probably the best, I think. And it smells really good when you're doing it, because it's just hair oil. So we're going to do a couple of drops in here. There we go, about 4 or 5. And less is more. When I first started doing it, I would put a whole bunch of silicone in, and I couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting good cells. And it's just because you just had too much of it in there. So for this first layer that we put it in, I'm just going to barely stir it around a little bit. Like, I'm not getting real aggressive with it. I'm just kind of mixing it into the paint. You could even just fold it in. And we will set that aside. And then, you're going to go ahead and pick colors and just start pouring it in. the closer you have your pouring paint into the next layer below, the better off you're going to be at keeping it layered. If you hold your paint way up high and pour it in, then it'll penetrate the layers below, and it's all a matter of preference. So we have all of those paints over there. Go ahead and pick colors and start pouring it in, darling. I'll trade you sides. It's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. So before we got started today, we went ahead and pre-mixed a couple of colors. And we did a few pours last night. We had some leftover paint from that, so we had some left. So once you get that in, then go ahead and just start grabbing colors. These are the ones that you had picked out. And what we're going to do with this first one is what they call a flip cut. It's fun. I really enjoy doing it. It gets it's very therapeutic. How's that looking? Good? Let's see what you got going on there. Yeah, that's great. So now you can also add multiple layers of color. Yeah, I'd say, yeah. Let's do some copper in there. I like the way the copper looks. And for this size of a canvas, this is an 11 by 14. You're gonna want about a half a cup's worth of paint in the cup that you're using to flip. I believe these are 10-ounce cups. Keep in mind if you're using a smaller cup, say like for example an 8-ounce, then you're gonna want more than half. It's probably good on the copper. And then we're gonna go ahead and put a couple more drops of the dimethicone in there. 3 or 4. Sometimes it comes out fast, sometimes it's perfect. And then we'll top it off with just a little bit more of the white. Nice. Beautiful. Okay, so let's see about how much paint have you got in there now. Okay, let's do, just because, let's put just a little bit more white in there. And then for this one, we're just going to go right around this outside edge with it. Let it kind of settle down into the paint. All right. So I'm going to show you the technique for flipping it, but I'm going to let you actually flip it. Okay. So you're going to hold your cup like so. You're going to take your canvas and make a lid out of it. And then you're going to just flip the whole thing over. And then you'll leave the cups, make sure the cup's tightly against the canvas, and leave it on there when you get it flipped over, and I'll show you what to do after that. Yeah. Perfect. So because we got those silly tacks in there we go. Okay, so it'll stay right there like that. You don't have to hold it. What we're going to do now is we're going to put just a little ring of the white around the outside edge. Just because it helps the color inside to spread out a little bit without getting quite as glued down. There we go. Now, you can take and while your cup's on the canvas, you can swirl it around like so, and that can help to encourage the production of cells, or you can just pick it straight up. So it's all a matter of preference. Just don't fling it up when you come pulling on it, because it'll go everywhere if you're not careful.
Straight up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Kind of sticks on it, creates a side. I know, huh? That looks so cool. So, what I like to do is I like to take, because there's still quite a bit of paint in the bottom of there, and see, these are the cells. I don't know if you can see those inside. That's what we're going for with the dimethicone. And I just like to pour it out onto the canvas somewhere, because then that way it stays with it. So, real quick, we're going to go ahead and torch this thing. Ta-da. This is the fun part. Fire. And all I'm doing with this here is just popping the bubbles. See how the bubbles just come popping up out of there? And those are most likely those came when we were shaking it in the bottle, because it gets them that way. So now all you're going to do is you're going to pick up your canvas, and you're going to start tilting it and spreading it around like so. Okay. let it flow off the sides, if you can, all the way around. And then we'll set her aside and let it dry, and we'll go from there. Isn't that fun? Look at how they all just... And so the reason that you're not seeing as much blue right now is because of the way that it comes out of the cup in the layers. With the dimethicone that we put in there, we're going to torch it one more time once you get it everywhere that you want it to be. And that's going to pull up paint from the bottom layers. The trick is making sure you remember to keep it on top of the tub. That's how I end up with it all over my feet. Oh, that is so cool looking. I love the metallics. I really like seeing the metallics in that. Very cool. All right. So, something I like to do is I like to make sure that it goes all the way off the edge. And I'm really liking what you've got going on here. So what I like to do is I'll take and I'll run my fingers across the bottom and pick up what's going off the side. And then you just tap it in there. And granted, it doesn't look quite the same, but it will by the time it's done, because it's the weight of the paint that you're putting on the canvas will pull the rest of the paint down on top of itself. Do we have any more bald spots on that other side? Beautiful. Don't want to get your hair. There we go. So, you're going to take, and when you're torching it, you want to go fast. You don't want to hold it in one spot, because it is acrylic paint. But see how these cells just come right out of there when you hit it with that? And it's going to pull up the blue that's underneath. And torch away, have a good time with it when you're doing it. Check things out. Again, I said keep it moving. You don't want to, it'll scorch your paint really easily. See what we're bringing out right in through there. And you just have a lot of fun with it. Really enjoy yourself. So go ahead and, if you want to torch it a little more, feel free. If you're happy with the cell production, and the cells will continue to pop up as it dries. It'll keep going for you. And that's pretty much all there is to a flip cup. You're just gonna go ahead, and once you get done with it at this point, you're gonna set it someplace nice and level so that it has time to dry. It takes approximately, well, it takes a guaranteed 2 weeks for the paint to cure. After that, then you can spray it down with, I like to use a triple thick glaze by Rust-Oleum. And at that point, you can sell it to everybody you know, or hang it on your wall, stick one in your bathroom. So thanks so much for joining us today, folks, and we'll be back next time with, I think we'll do a wing pour for our next one. Sounds like a lot of fun. Thank you so much. All right, folks, so we've gone ahead and we've reset just a little bit during our break there. We've got a brand new fresh canvas up here on the rack. I've mixed up a bit more of our white. I also switched from your standard titanium white this time to a metallic white. I have also mixed up some of our copper color. And again, with the metallics I mentioned earlier, you're gonna have to add a little bit more water and a little bit more of your flow to it to thin it down. The metallics tend to be heavier pigmented than the others. So for this particular pour, we're gonna do what they call a wing pour. So we're gonna start out with some white in our cup. For this size canvas, you want, I'd say I'd do almost an inch worth of white in the very bottom, because you're going to want to have enough white left over in the cup after we pour it out to break through all the other colors. So the most important part of this technique is the way you put your paint in the cup. So let's start with the copper, because I'm feeling copper today. I don't know if you ever feel like a color, but I do that quite often. It's kind of funny. So with the wing pour, you're going to want to pour your paint in on the side of the cup. So we'll tilt it just a little bit so you can see what you got going on right there. Can you see how I'm doing it? Okay. I'm gonna set it here so everybody else can see. And just let it pour right down the side of the cup there. And a fair amount, because this is going to be the base for your wings, like the majority of your color. And then we're going to do a little bit more white. That's going to go right in. New bottles. That's something to remember, folks. When you get new bottles, make sure you check that the tips are cut. And of course, with that right down in there. And you just keep adding your layers of color, like so. You want to make sure you pour it in on the side. So let's use some of this turquoise, because I think that'll accent really well with the copper. Actually, I'm going to let you mix in just a little bit more water for that one, if you wouldn't mind. No, it's a little thick on this. So we'll go to purple. A little bit more. Oh! Yay, that was almost a catastrophe. Remember when I said it gets messy? I wasn't kidding. A little bit more white. Oh, you can get... How are we doing on that?
Can go to right now.
That's alright. It'll be okay. Let's see your stick for a second. Because there's quite a bit of paint on the stick that you can scrape off, and then if you... Oh yeah, no, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, good job. Scalpel? I'm just kidding. There we go. Use some of this turquoise. Oh, you can set it on the paper towel there, sweetie. That's why we throw the tarp down. Save the table. So, go ahead and let you look in there and see how it makes the rings with it. Yeah, that's the trick to getting it to pour out in the wing pour. So, let's see, is our black got the... No. Does this one have the tip cut on? Yes, this one is open. Okay, so we'll cheat. We'll steal this tip. And the reason that I'm wanting it is because I like to, with the black, I like to use it as an accent so that it, as your paint flows out, it's gonna grab from the side when it's coming, and it'll almost put like black tips on the feathers for your wings. So to accomplish that, you're just gonna drop a little bit of black all the way around your outside edge like so. And I don't take it all the way, I don't make it a complete ring, I just go to about where the last color that I poured in, where that one starts. So we've got all of our paint in our cup. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna tilt it just a little bit and get the cup right down close to the canvas. You wanna be in just a couple of inches. And you're gonna pour really slow with this one. So, but you can see as it starts coming out of the cup how it makes those little points and whatnot in there. And just keep going. Nice and slow. You don't want very much tilt on it because you don't want this running down super fast. Like you almost want it to puddle. Keep going. And see what I mean about it picking up the black and dragging that out. It's really cool. And in theory, if I have filled the cup correctly, oh, I like the stripes it's got. That's cool. I've never had to do that before. In theory, white's going to be the last color that comes out. And we'll pull that backwards to break the paint. I'm going to push it forward just a hair. I'm going to bring that all the way up to the very edge of my canvas. There we go. I'll shut it down for a second and let it kind of settle some. I'm not gonna, the last one that we did, we went ahead and we torched it really early. I'm not gonna do that on this one. And you'll notice that I did not add any of the dimethicone. Your paint will create cells on its own. You get more when you add the silicone or the dimethicone to it. But what creates the cells is your paint actually sliding over the top of each other. And that's about the extent of my technical knowledge of it. But. So now that we've got that there and it's kind of settled, with this particular style of pour, the trick is not going fast at all. You wanna go really slow with your, so I'm gonna pick this up. I'm gonna bring this back towards me some, not too much because I don't want a bunch of it to run off the back. Just enough that it's, I wanna get rid of that top part of color just because it makes me, we'll set that down and let it kind of settle again. The other thing with the wing pour is You can let it go off of the sides of your canvas at the top and the bottom, but if you let it go off of the sides on this side, the weight of the paint itself is going to continue pulling your color off of the side, and you'll lose that wing shape. So I'm going to tilt it just barely and go very slowly. And I like to rock it back and forth because I kind of like to keep it centered. And you can see how it starts making the other layers that are underneath of it a little bit more visible as you go from side to side. It was smoke on the water earlier. There we go. So just barely coming off the side, and then pull it back some, and then again let it settle. It'll level itself off. It does take a really long time with this one. You have to be really patient. But you can see how it starts to take on that wing shape right there. And we're going to encourage that just a little bit more by going side to side with it. Really slowly though, because you don't want to... I probably tried doing this particular technique 15-20 times before I finally got it right the first time. I was so irritated with it. But I just couldn't stop either. It was... Now, a lot of our paint is kind of pulled up right down here, so I'm going to bring it back some so that we can spread these sides out. Kind of wild, huh? There we go. That's almost the way. Pretty good. Now, I'm probably going faster than I should be right there. Bring that back in. But that's why you don't want to go real fast with it, because it'll change the shape of your hole. Okay, now I gotta let it carry over a little farther on this side. Back. Set her down, let it settle for just a second. And see, these are we've got cells popping up all along through here, and did I put any dimethicone in this one? I didn't, okay, good. I want to make sure I was telling everybody correctly. But these are the cells that it'll make all on its own, and then once we get it where we want it and we're almost done, then we'll take the torch to it and just very gently try to pop whatever air bubbles we have left. So we're going to let this cool back down here at the bottom without trying to not let too much of it go over the edge. And we'll go side to side with it. Too aggressive, Traci. It's almost it. So, you may be thinking, what about your sides? They look awful. I'll show you how to fix that in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and let a whole bunch of it run off the end because I'm happy with my side to side now. And I'm just going to kind of wiggle it back and forth a little bit as we go. Like so. And then, do we have another one of those lids with a hole in it? Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Then I'm just going to take my bottle with the hole in it, in the top of the nozzle, and I'm just going to drop in some white all along the outside edge. It's just fill in the rest of this canvas with just plain white. Just like so. And you want to be careful when you get it up against here, because it'll meet up with that other paint and it will start pulling it from one side to the other. So just go as close to it as you can get it without actually trying to get it too far into it. Because of the flow that we put in it and the water that we use to thin it down, it will eventually meet up with it. And then I'm also going to pick it up and kind of marry it to it. So if I could have one of those clean popsicle sticks, or craft stick, you can get them at any craft store. You can also get them at home improvement stores. You can pick them up at the dollar store, which I think is the most cost effective. If you're anything like me and you get really, really into this, it can get to be an expensive habit. So, like I said earlier, you just want to keep an eye on your costs and do price comparisons. come off the side just a hair. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. And then I'm gonna show you a really neat trick. I'm gonna show you how to put a hummingbird in the bottom. It's so very therapeutic and so soothing, you know, because you start getting into it and you get really focused on what you're doing. You know, and your artistic side of your brain is, I believe, the left side of your brain. And when you start accessing that and start doing things that are artistic, it's very easy for you to lose track of time when you're in that zone. People forget to eat. That's how come people like Van Gogh went crazy, is because he was so in his, well, that and the syphilis. Just gonna add a little bit more white, and I'll show you, like I said, how to put a bird in here. And we're just going to tilt it just enough so that it meets that white that we put along the outside. And then it'll seem like kind of more of a seamless transition. It's a little heavy right there. And don't worry about making it perfect right off the bat. It will level off and meet it. And then now for the bird. So what I'm going to do the bird is I'm going to take some leftover colors from what we did here. There we go. And then I have some of those craft sticks over there that I broke in half that are the skinnier ones. Yeah, thank you. So to do that, we're going to take... Take some purple. We're just going to put like a little dab of it right here. And then we'll take some of the green. And I'm going to scoop that one out. I'm just going to go like this. And I know it doesn't look like much yet, but it'll be a bird when we're done, I promise. There you go. And then we'll do the copper. Thank you, sir. We're going to do the same thing, only I'm going to switch sides of the stick so that I'm not contaminating my colors. And I'm going to run this right through the center. So, there you go. And then all you're going to do to get that bird shape out of it is you're just going to take your stick and start pulling a little bit forward so you've got kind of a beak shape. And then I like to put little spikes on my birds' heads because I think it looks cool. And then to do the wings, you're going to make a C. You're just going to bring it up and bring it back down. Looks like we need just a little bit more paint at the bottom. And it's always easy. It's easier to add more paint to your project than it is to take it away. Come on. I'm so worried I'm going to pour out too much of it. Alright, I'm too scared I'm going to ruin it. We'll do some more of the green. Drop that guy in right there. Beautiful. There you go. Thank you so much for coming in today, Noah. It's nice to have somebody to paint with. I'm having a lot of fun.
Too.
So, there we go. And then we're going to make a second wing and come right off the top of that one. There we go. So he's got really long wings. It's kind of crazy. And then we're going to bring his tail down, just like so. Crazy, huh? Like you wouldn't have thought that those blobs of paint would have turned into anything that even remotely resembled a bird. And you can bring his belly around like so, give him extra little colors. You can give him an eyeball if you want. There's all sorts of fun stuff you can do with it. There we go. So I think that I'm just about done playing with this one, but I do want to sign it. And to sign it, I just use my handy dandy craft stick. Take just a little bit of the copper, and I'm just going to dip it right in there. I'm not going to... I did use the green end of my stick to to pull the paint out with. But I didn't swirl it at all. I just barely dipped it in and pulled it back out. And that's going to give us 2 colors on the signature when we sign it. And then I just use my stick just like I would a pencil. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. There we go. I know what it means. All right, folks, we'll go ahead and take a little break and set this one aside, and we'll set Noah up to do a wing pour real quick. So now we've got everything cleaned up and reset, we're gonna go ahead and let Noah take over. You think you're ready to do this, Noah?
Yes.
All right, let's do this. So as Noah's getting paint in his cup and getting things ready to go, I'd like to take just a second to talk to you about what happens to your canvas after this. We've gone over mixing the paint. We've gone over actually a couple of techniques to putting it on the canvas. But everybody says, what do I want to do with it? What do I do with it now? How do I finish this? So it takes 2 weeks for acrylic paint to cure. You want to give it a solid 2 weeks before you finish it. We're using a water-based paint, so I like to use a water-based polyurethane for finish. So the next part, honey, you're just going to start grabbing colors, and then just keep in mind that you want to pour it down the edge of the cup, and you want to keep pouring it in the same spot every time. So I like to use a water-based polyurethane, again because I'm using a water-based paint. Pardon me. Oh, pollen in the air. I almost sneezed right here. But when you're storing your canvas after you get it painted, you're going to want to set it someplace nice and flat, someplace that's super level. If you don't set it someplace level and it's got a little bit of tilt, you'll come back and the whole painting will have slid off the side of the canvas on you. And so what I like to do is you let it sit for about 2 weeks, and then I use a triple thick glaze on it. So that's one of the ones without the hole in it, darn it. See, it got you too. But your canvas is going to end up very flat looking, very dull. It's not going to have this beautiful shine that you get when you first do it. I've got one here that we can check out in just a moment. And it's a wing pour that I had done previously. Oh, okay. It's a wing pour that I had done previously. And try not to get too much lighting on it, but see how that's shiny and just absolutely gorgeous again, and it's got that same beautiful finish as the pour itself does. That's what putting the clear coat or the varnish or whatever you decide to use, whatever your medium is, will do. There we go. All right, now it's all you again. So you're gonna need just a little bit more white in your cup.
So inside again.
Yep. Yeah, and you can actually put quite a bit in. Nice. Beautiful. And then I don't know if you wanted to do the black around the edges like I did,
Yeah,
or okay, there you go.
So then just go.
Just right around the very outside edge.
And you said start where the second layer?
Mm-hmm. It's so much fun, but it gets so messy sometimes. I love doing it. Let's go over just a little bit so you can get in there. My goal is to have created a monster by the time we're done, because goodness knows I need a pour buddy. Excellent. Let's see what you got there. Yeah, that looks good. So when you're looking down in your cup and you can see how this is clearly where you've been pouring it in at, so this is the side you want to pour the paint out of. So you want to, when you pick it up, you want to have about, go ahead and pick up your cup of paint, and you want to have about that much tilt on it.
Okay.
And you want to have the cup really close to the canvas before you start pouring.
And you said flip it over?
Mm-hmm. Oh no, you're not going to flip it. You're just going to hold it and pour it the whole time. Yep, just like that. And then maybe just a little bit more tilt on your canvas. There you go. Nice. Very nice. That's fun the way it comes out too. I just love it. So I've tried a couple of different techniques in the process of trying to learn how to do this one. And then there we go. Now we can see that starting to come out of there. That looks really good. And the reason that we're holding the cup just a little bit above the canvas is because if you were to put it straight on the canvas, you wouldn't get these beautiful ripples that you're getting right in through there. It would just kind of all come out as a blob. Nice. Very nice. And see, that's the other thing that you want to remember with this one is you want to pour it really slowly. So you're doing an excellent job at that. Very nice. You could probably go ahead and give it just a little bit more paint. There you go. Yep, just like that. And then try to bring your cup back towards the center of your canvas, just a hair. Very, very cool. And when you get down to where you've got just a little bit of paint left in the canvas, you're going to keep pouring, but as you're pouring, you're going to pull it back towards you. And they call that breaking the paint. And I'm guessing they call it that because you're breaking the color right there from point. And then you're good to go. Beautiful, I'll take that. And then go ahead and set your canvas down flat and let it kind of settle for a second. And then once it's kind of settled itself in just a little bit, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to pick it up and you're going to start rotating it back and forth and spreading it down from one side to the other. Yeah. Now the first time I saw a tutorial on this, because I watch a lot of tutorials online, they called it a tornado. It was an unsuccessful wing pour is what the artist had said. And she was calling it a tornado. And I believe the reason she called it a tornado is because in the tutorial, she let the paint spread off the sides of the canvas instead of just the top and the bottom. And when she did that, her paint twisted, and it definitely did have kind of a eye of the storm feel to it, but it was gorgeous. So, yeah. No accidents, just happy mistakes, right? Says that one fella. Beautiful. And see, and the longer you let it sit, because of the flow that we put in it, it's the self-leveler and the extender, it's just going to continue to expand out. And it would fill, say if you were using it on like some sort of a flooring, it would fill that flooring up. It's good stuff. It does great things. So I think you're probably ready to start tilting and...
Just very slightly.
Very slightly. And just so you don't lose that wing shape, yeah, you don't want to go too extreme. Like, you don't want to flip it and let it run all the way off the end of your canvas the first time. I'd go a little bit more. Get a little aggressive with it. Show it who's boss. Nice. See, yours remind me of bat wings too, right off the bat. I like it. Oh, I'm so excited about how this is all turning out. I'm just excited about having somebody pour with me. Very, very cool. And there's all sorts of different things that you can pour. There's groups on Facebook that all they do is talk about pouring. And I think I saw a post about somebody that had done their Volkswagen Beetle. And, you know, I was thinking of, how would you do that? And it said that what they did is they took a 5-gallon bucket and they used that for their cup and stood on a stepladder on the top of their car and just poured it straight onto the hood and just watched it. It turned out pretty cool. It's a little bit more extreme than I think that I'm willing to go. I don't know that my husband would appreciate coming home and finding our car poured in the middle of the driveway. That is so cool. Now, you'll notice as it's pouring, it's pulling these colors down towards you. I'm seeing a lot of copper starting to show up in here. And then I really like this almost lavender color that we're getting right in through here and here where the blue and the purple are blending. Very, very cool. Yeah, so you're going to let it go all the way to the end of your canvas, not necessarily off, but all the way to the end. And then you'll bring it back and let it center just a little bit, and then we'll do the sides. Okay. Very cool. So, again, it's a huge mess. Just keep in mind that you want to make sure that you put it down a tarp or you're putting down plastic. Actually, somebody here today suggested a bucket of water to rinse your stuff in. I can't believe I'd never thought of that myself, but that is a brilliant idea. Absolutely brilliant. Nice. We ended up doing that last night when we were doing our practice pours. We ended up using a little handheld wire whisk. And we had a bucket of water out there on the front porch with us so that we could rinse it off and we didn't have to run it back and forth all night. Yeah.
Want to get more from the edge? Or?
No, I think you're probably pretty good right there. I would tilt it and let it come back towards you a little bit. Yeah, and then that way it's going to bring your paint right back down into here. So when you go the side to the side, it's not going to all be at one end of the canvas. Perfect. And then, yeah, we'll just do a little side to side action on it. That is so great. And see now, if you're happy with that right there, though, say you like that and you're just, which I think it's stunning. I think that's absolutely beautiful. You can stop right there. You don't have to keep spreading your paint out. We can always just fill in the negative space with other colors. Nobody says that there's no mandate that says that you have to spread your paint out as thin as you can get it on your canvas. The only thing it's going to do for you by not doing it is take it just a little bit longer to where it's going to dry to the touch. But it's still going to take that 2 weeks to cure. It's always going to take that amount of time. I like to do glass work. I've been doing a lot of lamps lately. I hand pour the shades. I'm not sure if I can yet, but I'd like to try maybe firing them in a kiln. I think that would maybe hurry the process along like you do with ceramics. I don't see why you couldn't. If anybody knows, please do feel free to write in. Again, I'd love to see your work, but feel free, write in, share your experiences with me. It's traci.can@outlook.com. Once again, I'd like to let everybody know that with your permission, we'll gladly share your project on the air. We're going to keep working on Noah's pour here and get that all wrapped up, and we'll make sure we show you guys what it looks like when we're done. One more time, folks, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope to see you again real soon.